The final chapter on JFK, Chapter 9, Segment 3, The Red Plot.
I touched upon the phrase, the red plot, in an earlier part of this series. And what we're going to do here is go into much greater detail. To do that, we're going to have a constitutional law question, which is going to start us on our discussion related to the red plot. Here is the question for all viewers. Does a U.S. president have the power and authority to orally order, not even by written executive order, the seizure of all evidence in a solely exclusive state crime and to thereafter facilitate the damage or destruction to key pieces of evidence? Almost immediately after the assassination, the new president went on the offensive and claimed that a worldwide conspiracy was happening, and either the Soviets or the Cubans might be involved. This, of course, goes back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, Fidel Castro, Nikita Khrushchev, Lee Harvey Oswald, going to the Soviet Union and returning, and the fact that people ignored that Lee Harvey Oswald told everyone he never wanted to go back to the Soviet Union again, and his wife never wanted to go back. And it ignores the fact that the person that traveled to the Russian embassy in Mexico City and in the Cuban embassy in Mexico City, claiming to be Lee Harvey Oswald, was an imposter. If you brush all of that away, you have a situation where you may have a world crisis. And Lyndon Johnson used that to his advantage to everyone he talked to. Let's listen to several taped comments of Johnson telling people that they should do what he's telling them to do, because if they don't, they may be responsible for the killing of 40 million Americans.
This is a question that has a good many more ramifications than on the surface, and we got to take this out of the arena where they're testifying that Khrushchev and Castro did this and did that, and kicking us into a war that can kill 40 million Americans in an hour.
Those statements by Lyndon Johnson are the red plot. Contained above are actual written statements from transcripts of Johnson's statements concerning the assassination and grabbing all of the evidence. For example, I think we ought to. We don't want to have testifying some fella coming up from Dallas saying, I think Khrushchev planned this whole thing and that he got our president assassinated. Then the news, television, saying that the assistant chief said today that he believes Khrushchev did so-and-so. And you can see where that'll lead us right quick. Here's another example where Johnson's talking and he says, and this is so touchy from an international standpoint, that every man we got over there, they're concerned about it. Here's another one where Johnson's saying he doesn't want the House or Senate investigating the matter at all. A bunch of television cameras or a lot of loose testimony coming from Eastland's committee and otherwise saying that Khrushchev done this or Castro's done this or something else. Lyndon Johnson, as a prime suspect, using the red plot theory, grabbed all of the evidence in this case. And of course, all while this went on, he failed to tell anyone that he knew there was an imposter in Mexico City impersonating Lee Harvey Oswald, and that there was no Red Scare. And if we want to go even further, when Johnson was talking about Red Scare, let's play this tape.
And I just pulled out what Hoover told me about a little incident in Mexico City, and I said, now, I don't want Mr. Khrushchev to be told tomorrow and be testifying before camera that he killed this fella and that Castro killed him. And all I want you to do is look at the facts and bring any other facts you want in here and determine who killed the president.
When we talk about the power and seizing of evidence, while Kennedy is still in Parkland Memorial Hospital and Johnson is there, photographed outside the hospital is Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry. An arrow marks his spot. He has no men, no detectives, no anyone guarding or inspecting the president's limo, which was part of the crime scene for this Texas crime. Here's another shot. Dallas policemen standing around the limousine while a Secret Service agent has a metal bucket and appears to be cleaning down and wiping off the outside of the limousine to remove blood and brain matter. Aside from the city of Dallas not protecting the limo or inspecting the limo as part of the crime scene, immediately after the assassination, the Dallas Police Department, with a number of uniformed officers, allows Kennedy's body to be taken out of Parkland Memorial Hospital and whisked off on a plane, all in contravention of Texas law, which mandated a forensic autopsy on Kennedy at Parkland Memorial Hospital. Although it was law, although it should have been done, although there were policemen around, no one stopped the ordered removal of this critical piece of evidence. Also within the hospital, we have the magic or miracle bullet that was found on a stretcher that neither Conley nor Kennedy were on. That bullet was not turned over to the Dallas Police Department as part of their investigative process, but rather was taken directly to Washington, D.C. The rifle, while found by the Dallas police and partially inspected by the Dallas police, was, like all the rest of the evidence, packed up and shipped to Washington, D.C. A bullet nicked to a curb, they actually sawed the curb and sent the bullet-marred curb up to Washington, D.C. A bullet striking near a manhole cover, and investigators looking for the bullet, and of course, someone found something, because there's a photograph of a man picking up what all witnesses saw was a bullet. The Dallas policeman standing nearby did nothing aside from guard the area to allow some unknown FBI agent to take this evidence. It is clear that from Chief Jesse Curry standing outside the limousine and doing nothing to have it inspected as a crime scene, all the Dallas police did was to essentially marshal evidence and forward it on to the federal government in Washington, D.C. That, of course, means it went to the FBI. And the head of the FBI at the time was J. Edgar Hoover, a person who Lyndon Johnson called a very good friend, a man who lived up until the time that Johnson became vice president, 200 feet away from Johnson on the same street, a man who Johnson and himself walked their dogs together every morning, and a man who actually babysat Lyndon Johnson's daughters when they were young and growing up. That man received all of the evidence of this crime, which Lyndon Johnson ordered be gathered and sent to him. As we discussed in one of our first segments related to motive, opportunity, means, plus timing, plus control. Control over evidence, control to clean the crime scene can damage an investigation. And in this case, no matter how you want to look at it, one of the prime suspects had control and actually did all of the cleanup.